Hello everyone and welcome to the first video of Gran Turismo 7 Custom Project Set 3. Here we have an iconic car in the history of Gran Turismo, the Toyota TS020 Race Car, specifically the 1999 version. This is probably the second most iconic red car in Gran Turismo history, behind of course the Suzuki Escudo, which was also introduced in the same game as the TS020, Gran Turismo 2. This car is pretty much unanimously agreed to be the single best and most useful car in the entirety of Gran Turismo 2, and it made appearances in each subsequent game until Gran Turismo Sport, and it has yet to return unfortunately. If I were to guess, I'd say that this is one car that is sure to return at some point, as it is a massively popular fan favourite car. This build uses the follow-up to the TS020, the TS030 Hybrid Le Mans car, as its base. Obviously, the TS020 was not a hybrid car, and the design of the car is different, mainly in the middle of the body of the car, so it isn't a perfect replica, but I think this may be one of my favourite builds I've ever made, along with a GT1 road car build that's coming out at the end of this set. Both are really interesting to me, and I recommend that you try both of them out. As with most of the builds in this series, the livery on this car was made by another player in the community, and I have left a link to it in the description of this video if you want to use it for yourselves. So with that out of the way, we can head to the tuning shop to fit custom parts to the car. So, since the base car of this build is already a race car, it already has a lot of the parts fitted that we would need anyway, and there isn't a lot we can do to upgrade it being a race car anyway. However, we don't actually need to do that much because the specs of the newer TS030 are actually quite similar to the older TS020 that we're replicating today. So, in the sports section, you will need absolutely nothing. The same goes for the club sports section, nothing is needed here. In the semi-racing section, you'll want the fully customizable computer, the medium RPM turbocharger, and the fully customizable LSD. In the racing section, you need the racing silencer, racing brake discs, which are fitted by default, the brake balance controller, the fully customizable suspension, fully customizable racing transmission, and racing hard tires. Now, like I've said with the other ones, you can go for racing medium or softs if you want. I usually go for the hard tires because they have enhanced durability, so they last longer in endurance races like Sardinia, which is where you're most likely to use a car like this anyway, within career mode at least. But if you want to go for softer mediums, you can. And in extreme and ultimate, you don't need anything either. So, like I said, a very easy car to build, honestly, not many parts needed, and it's very cheap as well once you get over the million credits that the base car costs anyway. So, let's head into the tuning settings and build the car. So, for our tires, we have Racing Hards equipped. For the suspension, it is fully customizable with 75mm of body height front and rear, with our anti-roll bar set to 4 on the front and rear. For the compression on the dampers, it is 33 on the front and rear, with 44 front and rear for the expansion. Our natural frequency is 4.65 on the front and 4.45 on the rear. Our negative camber angle is 2.0 on the front and 1.0 on the rear, and the toe angle is set to 0 on both front and rear. For our differential, it is the fully customizable, and our initial torque is set to 10, our acceleration sensitivity is 40, and our braking sensitivity is 25, all on the rear because the car is rear-wheel drive, so we can't adjust the front values. Our downforce is set to 1400 at the front and 2000 on the rear. Our ECU is fully customizable, it is set to 97 to bring us to 673 horsepower. The original car has 672 horsepower, so we're one off, but it doesn't really make that much difference, honestly. We don't need any ballast or power restrictor adjustment on this build. For our transmission, we have the fully customizable racing transmission set to an automatic setting of 370. Despite setting it this high, it's not actually going to get that fast. I don't know why, but the car will not go as fast as the real-life car can. So even though I've set the gear ratio to this speed, it doesn't get anywhere near that fast, unfortunately. For nitros, you could fit nitros if you want, but it's not legal in most events, so I've opted not to. But if you wanted to, you could fit it. For our turbocharger, we have the medium RPM turbocharger equipped, again, to get us to the 673 horsepower. And the rest of this is not adjustable, so everything that should be there is already there by default. So now that we have our car tuned, all it's left to do is take it out to the track and see what it's capable of. So, like I said at the beginning, this car is one of my favourite builds that I have made for this series as a whole, including all 3 sets. It is very fast and it handles really well. While still having a little bit of a kick to it, you definitely can step the tail out on this one if you're too reckless with your driving, but overall it handles really well. My only issues with this build are the base car isn't a perfect fit for the TS020. The TS030 is visually similar, especially at the front, but the middle section is quite different, especially with that central fin, And of course the rear spoiler has its differences as well, though it's not as major as the midsection. Of course the TS30 is a hybrid compared to the TS20, which was not a hybrid, which means there's another big difference in the top speed. The original TS20 was capable of over 250 miles per hour easily, but the TS30, even with the modification increasing the horsepower with the turbocharger, it's not capable of getting up to that speed. No matter what I have done, I could not get the car up to 250 miles an hour. And like I said, I believe this is due to the car being a hybrid, but I'm not entirely sure. It honestly impacts the road car build more than this build, because this build as a race car is still very fast, it'll still perform very well in races. But I thought it was worth mentioning here because technically it is an inaccuracy. Regardless, this car is still incredibly quick and it's very fun to drive with great handling. It is a brilliant candidate for the newly added World Touring Car 900 events with a performance point level of just under 900, and it can be down-tuned for Sardinia, and it has become one of my personal favourite cars to use in that event. So, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought of this build. I am really curious to see what people think of this one, since I think it's one of my best yet. So stay tuned for the remaining builds of the series, and I'll see you next time. Thank you all for watching, and have a great day.